have never met a woman that is not looking for direction and dominance backed by care and devotion. No one in the history of the planet, even with the most perfect seemingly parents, gets off scot-free. There is something that is so beautiful about a man who is directive and clear and assertive. A lot of people misunderstand about the beauty of dominance. In order to be a dominant man, there needs to be an understanding about what it means to be submissive. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ancient Intelligence. You've got your host Anya Shak here, and today I want to get into a conversation around dominance and submission as it pertains to the yin and yang, masculine and feminine harmony that I always talk about here, and that's the birth of this podcast. It's one of my favorite topics, so I'm excited to get into it. But before I do, I just want to remind y'all that I have a few spots left to sign up with me for coaching in November. If you don't already know, I'm a transformational coach. I work with you to go through your self-sabotage, rewire beliefs, and just really help you awaken to your gifts and your personal power in a way that is unique to you. And it's my pleasure to support you with that. So if you are looking for coaching to make some big changes in your life, I'll leave the link down below and book a free discovery call with me. I'll be looking forward to meeting you then. Okay, let's get into it. So masculine, feminine, submission, dominance. It's a big conversation that I've been having in my circles the last week or so. And I have never met a woman that is not looking for direction and dominance backed by care and devotion. That is something that I've experienced from women in conversations, in my own life. There is something that is so beautiful about a man who is directive and clear and assertive, and you know that there's a generosity of spirit behind that. And I think what a lot of people misunderstand about the beauty of dominance in general is that dominance is about being of service. It's about gifting the feminine something, knowing that through your gift and through your assertive action and language, she then is able to rest into her gifts, and then her gifts then feed you. And then your gifts feed her gifts feed you. And it's this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful loop. I think that in order to be a dominant man, there needs to be an understanding about what it means to be submissive. It needs to be in the DNA of a man. And that's why I think there used to be these very clear rituals and rites of passage for young boys, because what's the purpose of an actual rite of passage? It is to bring a boy face to face with the non-rational, the non-organized, something that he can't just think his way through. It's bringing him face to face with the feminine and learning how to surrender to that and coming out on the other side. So I remember I was listening to a podcast recently about this man talking about a tribe in, whether it was Africa or I don't remember what he was talking about, but he was basically describing one of the rituals, one of the initiation rituals for the boys going into the men's camp, right? And there are these things called bullet ants. I had never heard of this before. So there are these bullet ants that are just so powerful and just so painful that it almost feels like you're being shot when they bite you. Like it's just over the top. And one of the things that they do with these boys is they basically put a whole bunch of these bullet ants into these gloves. And they put the boys' hands into these gloves and they make them keep their hands in them for, I think it was like overnight or for just an insane amount of time, to the point where they're continuously being bitten. And they have to overcome that. They have to like come face to face with something that is not logical or rational, something they can't like math or science their way through, right? And that's who the feminine is. It's this connection to something greater, something outside of this world. And that's that. So it's, Trevor Boehm has his, like, the primal is the masculine, the divine is the feminine. And there's that conversation there. And the feminine is the unconscious, according to Jung, the masculine is the conscious. So we have these dualities that exist in so many schools of thought. And so I say this to say that all the boys that go through these rituals come out on the other side, knowing that there's great difficulty in surrendering and it provides you with some sort of big, big gift, right? it awakens a gift in you on the other side that you didn't have before. Let me say that again, because I think that's really important. Upon surrendering, truly surrendering, and taking dominance from the masculine, for example, if as the feminine you're surrendering, there's a gift for you on the other side of that that is fruitful for yourself, for the masculine, and it's very beautiful. But it takes a little bit of effort to surrender, obviously. And in knowing that, then the masculine, his entire purpose for dominance, for, dominant, decisive, directive action and language to the feminine, his entire purpose for that is to awaken her gifts. It's not to be domineering, which is the contrast of dominant. Domineering doesn't give a shit about her and her gifts. Domineering just wants to be powerful for his own sake. Because those little boys found what they were capable of on the other side of this, clash with the feminine, they then were able to understand that. There was a quote that I read that was beautiful. Aubert Bastiat, he's one of the founders of Sacred Sons, which is another one of these men's organizations. He talks about, she wants to surrender, but to what? The archetypal feminine in her wants to submit, to serve, to fall to her knees, to say yes, but only if you have fallen to yours, not to her, but to the God within you, who grows through your free will, serving greater good, serving family, serving life itself, how you're utilizing your gifts to do something good out there in the world. It doesn't have to be starting a men's group, right? It can just be something as simple as, mastering your craft, depending on what craft you're working in. So it can be anything. It's just those gifts. And what our culture is missing, so that's how a young boy learns how to be dominant in a way that is backed by care and devotion. The other thing that our culture misses a lot is these very clear life stages that I think I've talked about before, but Robert Bly outlines them in his Iron John book. And the first life stage is connection with mom. Okay. And so I was talking to some women about this that actually are boy moms, and they were just like, oh, how long is that supposed to last? And I was like, well, technically, when he talks about the Sioux and other tribes that he's looked into and looked at, right around 7 and 8, that connection is supposed to start waning with mom, and he's supposed to start making his way towards the men's world to learn. And then upon being at the right age, then he gets through his ritual, his initiation rite, and then he joins the men's camp for good, right? But the idea is that a little boy is full of heart and love and emotionality and desire to be loved and seen and cherished and held. And it's just like, there's really no difference. Maybe in his behavior, there's a huge difference with little girls. Absolutely. We can talk about that evolutionarily, but to be seen and heard and loved and cherished and just held deeply is, little boys and little girls are the same, and they both get to have that, and they're meant to have that. And like Bly talks about, the Sioux knew that, different tribes in Africa knew that, these ancient people knew that. And so the connection with mom was supposed to be really strong. And, they talk about, I've heard someone talk about this. I think it was Elena Bridgers. She does a lot of writing on hunter-gatherers. Little boys and little girls were both never put down. You could barely, like hunter-gatherers, specifically when she was talking about the tribes that she's looked into, someone was always carrying them, touching them, holding them, hugging them. These kids had really strong attachment, boys and girls. And that's so, so important for boys because they need, especially, and girls get this more, right? And I've heard people in the modern, Western culture talk about, oh, I'm so different with my daughter versus my son. If she hurts herself, oh, it's poor baby, oh, poor sweetheart. But if my son hurts himself, man up, toughen up. And it's like, at 4 years old, no, that's not right. And the right thing to do is to really make sure little boys are just deeply held and understand that I'm good. I'm okay in this world. I'm valuable. And that's what moms do. Moms truly provide when there's that deep attachment and that nurture and that support. It's like, you are so meant to be here exactly as you are, period. It's beautiful. And then what dad does once the next stage of life for a boy starts is the relationship with dad. What dad does is build on that foundation of I am good, okay? And then it's like, okay, now that you know you're good, you're not running around the world dying to be loved, just waiting for someone to love you because you don't feel loved, which is a lot of the attachment issues we have in our modern culture. A lot of us feel this way deep down. There's a lack of love. I just want to be loved. This happens in my sessions all the time. 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and there's this, my work and my family and my relationships, but deep down there's this I just wish I was loved. And so it's so foundational. And then what dad does is he builds on that foundation of love, and then we start to build the self-worth. We start to build oh yeah, because I'm loved, like I can do it. I can try that and I can attempt that. And dad is really good at that. It's that masculine love that comes through. And there's a lot of heart in it still, right? There's so many, like I've heard so many people talk about it. There's still so much physical connection. There's so many hugs and so much love, but it's backed by that masculine discipline and drive to get him to master something. It's actually a really fun distinction between the two that I saw. I was at the gym a couple of days ago, and this woman was there and she had her kid there. Maybe he was like 5, 6 years old, and he was sitting on the couch waiting for her to finish her session, and his iPad charger went out, or like his iPad needed to be charged again. And so he like taps on the trainer's back and he was like, "Excuse me, sir, Coach Tyler, can I borrow your charger?" And he turns around and this trainer is just like, "Hey, buddy, yeah, you could borrow my charger, but it'll cost you 10 push-ups." And it was just like such a masculine moment, right? It was just like, it'll cost you 10 push-ups. And this kid lit up. This kid was like, "Okay." And then he's like starting these push-ups and, we're all there like 1, 2, 3. And everyone's like clapping for him at the end. I'm telling you, this was the highlight of this kid's week because, it just sounds like he needs that. He needed that. And a woman would never think to do that. That's not a woman's, she's not phase 2. She's not bringing him towards his self-mastery, right? So there's that. So then the second phase, right, is the phase with dad. And because of that, when stage 1 goes well, there's this deep reverence and love and appreciation for the feminine, for mom, for the mother, and all that she brings. And all the juicy, beautiful love and wisdom that she brings, and her own intelligence and her own ways of doing things, right? And just, it's really, really profound. And so with that, masculine then builds the container in reverence to her, in support of her, right? It's like, oh, wow, we know the power of what the feminine does in our world, right? She's intuitive. She tells us when something's not working anymore. She wants the best in us, right? She calls us forth to be better, to go on our journeys, to go on our missions. And it's really beautiful. And so that entire process. And then actually Robert Bly talks about phase 3 is called the relationship with the male mother. And I love this because what he's effectively talking about is a mentor. And one of the most important things around attachment and attachment theory and helping people heal attachment is no one in the history of the planet, even with the most perfect seemingly parents, gets off scot-free, right? There are always going to be fragments and gaps, things that they're dealing with, a sickness, a struggle, something that mom and dad or mom are dealing with. And beliefs get made unconsciously as children that, oh, we're not lovable, we're not good enough because mom wasn't there. But the reality is there are things that they're dealing with. And so what ancient cultures did really well was they had these kind of the alloparent or the mentor. And so this, like in the next phase of life, you have this really important mentor that comes into your life and helps you fill some of those gaps. And some of the things that we don't know how to do in our culture, we don't know how to grieve with people. We don't know how to hold people in what they're experiencing, right? And, in this moment, in this day and age, right, this is why I'm so about coaching and being a part of masterminds and groups and being, experiencing others that can hold and can process grief and all of that. So it's just really, really important. And it's so powerful. And it's why, our inability to do this, our separation of the masculine and the feminine, the way we've cut that off in our culture is the basis for so many of our woes and our problems and our feelings of loneliness and disconnection, and how we can't quite get in right relationship with each other between men and women. And when a man understands that his dominance is of service to a woman's gifts, and she understands that her submission is of service to a man's gifts, it's this beautiful thing. And just to share another example, I remember I was doing a private class with one of my salsa teachers, and there's a move called the flick. And so what the lead does is he'll like flick the hand, and you're supposed to, as a follow, like do this really beautiful movement. Flicks the hand away and you do this really beautiful movement. And I remember doing the flick like kind of halfway, and I just didn't go all the way. And he was just like, take the entire 8 count to do the hand movement. And I was like, are you sure? Like, I'm not taking up too much time, right? And he was like, watching your hands do those movements for the entire 8 count is part of the beauty of this dance. Like, take the entire 8 count. And in my view, that was very dominant, directive energy that was in service to bringing out my gift. You see how that works? And it's just extremely beautiful to experience. And then when women and little girls have the stages of their relationships kind of clear, right? When they have those experiences with mom and dad that are healthy and safe, and they get this understanding too of the heartfeltness of the masculine and just his connection to his heart and his gifts. Right. And I just think there's such beauty in that. And Robert Bly also talks about how the Sioux, in going through that, stage 1, deep bond with mom, stage 2, deep bond with dad and rite of passage, then stage 3, male mentor. After stage 2, once he's a man, that's when, people would start to pair up. And he talked about how the Sioux were known to be like the fierce warriors and really great lovers because they didn't have any shame. There was no shame. They knew they were loved. Then they knew they were good at what they did, and they knew that they were worth it. And they also loved the feminine. And so there's this really gorgeous interplay of those two things. And I think there's a beautiful conversation about dominance and submission and how it's all just really backed by, when it's operating properly, there's so much beauty in it and it's heartfelt. And I can also witness situations where if the woman tuned in knows that her man is not being of service or he's not in his higher self, he's kind of actually being domineering, then her not submitting to that is actually what's saving the moment. It's calling him forth to take a deeper look inside, right? And I think we have completely ruined this dynamic in so many ways in our culture, and it's quite foundational. So hopefully that's been interesting, and until the next one, y'all. Hello, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'm so happy to be here bringing my wisdom, my truths, all the research I do into pop culture and evolutionary psych and beyond to bring men and women the information that we all need to know to find that ultimate harmony with each other. This is the mission. This is why I'm here. This is what I believe in. So if you found value in what I'm doing here, please help me grow the podcast. And you can do one of two things. Either share the episode with a friend or leave me a review on Spotify or Apple. This will help me so much. Until next time.